11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. What a fight! I think Fundora won it!
Juan, the Hispanic causing panic, Lascano.
Man, that nigga was that Japanese guy was in shape.
He was in shape, D-Style. He was in shape.
Man, that nigga was that Japanese guy was in shape.
And he's the best fighter in the world, is he not? Is he not?
Is he not? Yes, he is.
Punch
100%.
placement.
He's already getting criticized like he's the best in the world too.
The killer instinct to go after knockouts and not play it safe, right?
You know you're the best in the world when all these fan bases all have to get together and criticize you. You know what I mean?
That's right.
They all join forces. Like I never seen all these different fan bases, like the Bud fans and the Canelo fans, like join forces to go at Inoue because he fought Doheny in a stay busy fight. He'll be back in a couple of months, people. Like he'll be back as soon as you know it. Like he's probably gonna fight before Bud fights again. He's probably gonna you know what I mean? Like he'll be back. Like
and then again, and then again,
and again.
He fights probably at a 3-to-1 clip versus Bud, which is why he's the pound for pound king. It's why.
But he fought Doheny. Why do you have to fight Doheny? But when Canelo's gonna fight Berlanga, everyone wants to criticize Canelo. But anyway, no one says anything about Doheny. I see that shit all over Twitter, bro.
Mm-hmm.
I saw some of the comments, from the roundtable. Like I'm just like, well, where's the energy for Doheny? But you had all this energy for Berlanga. What's going on, bro? I'm just like, does it have to be explained? Like, do we have to sit down and explain things to people the way we explain to little kids?
I think you do. Look, let's look at 168. So Canelo does still have different standards from his peers at 168, right? Because when we talk about Plant versus Berlanga, it's like, yeah, it's a good fight. Munguia versus Berlanga, yeah, it's a good fight. It's a good fight. We've been wanting that fight, right? Mm-hmm. Even Benavidez versus Berlanga, it's like, okay, yeah, you could do that fight. So Canelo does have different standards, and Canelo priced in with the betting odds 20-1 against Berlanga is also due to how great Canelo still is and how they still perceive him as a pound for pound fighter, which he still is. He's still in my top 7, 8 pound for pound fighters in the sport. So he's still fighting at a high level. But Inoue even more so now. Inoue, a 50-1 favorite against a top 10 guy. It may have not been the guy that they want right now for him to fight, but once again, May, September, December, and then he'll likely be back again in May, maybe even sooner. So we're at that point with Inoue to where the standards have been set extremely high. And you can't justify not putting that guy at the top anymore if your standards of him are going to be that high, correct? It's what we said about Canelo forever. It's like these dudes, they set impossibly high standards of Canelo. Circa 2020, 2021, even before that, 2017, 2018. They set impossibly high standards, but then they don't want to give him the credit of a fighter that they set impossibly high standards of. It's the most baffling thing is the Canelo haters did that for years, right? And now we're there with Inoue. And that's how I know that Inoue is the pound for pound king, is his standards have been set exceptionally high. Bud Crawford, great fighter, still top 2-3 pound for pound fighter in the sport, one of the best of our generation. Maybe you could argue the best. Who knows?
Mhm.
But I feel like the standards are dropping a little bit because now they're sort of justifying, okay, it's Canelo or bust. You can step out the door. With Inoue, it's you got to move up another level. And then maybe even another level. It's 126, 130. You have to come fight our fighters if you want to prove ourselves. Even after he destroys Stephen Fulton Jr. Even after that, you still got to come over here and fight in America and prove yourself against. It's a new day, D-Style. Do you know 25 years ago, the pound for pound list, top 10, Ring Magazine had 70% of its top 10 were American. Now it's 30%. 30%.
And it's a
It's,
subsidized list. But like people are going out of the way to try to put in some
yes.
America.
It's a universal sport now. The world is catching up. These other markets are on fire. They're getting bigger. But at the same time, it's also our fighters are living down to expectations set of them by our market, which is historically low standards for our fighters. And Inoue's standards are absurdly high at this moment. And that's how I know he's the best fighter in the world right now.
There's so much to look at here. One is to the point of, when you look at, we want to call it data, the amount of Americans that are on pound for pound lists, on top 10 lists per division. When you go down the list and down the line, there is definitely a trend of American fighters being less and less relevant per division, per capita, the way it is. Anyone who looks at data responsibly will look at that and say, you know what? That means that there's a problem.
Yeah.
That means that we need to fix this, right? In order to fix it, what do we need to do to fix it? Right? That's one thing you look at and say, okay, what do we do? Unfortunately, that's not, Callie, that's not the way a lot of American boxing fans, and a lot of them are content creators on here. That's not the way they look at it. They instead look at it and say, oh, they're starting to favor the Japanese fight. They have a bias for Japanese fighters. Oh, they have a bias for European fighters now. They're so, and the Ring Magazine is so anti-American. That's what's going on right now. Like, why don't they support the American fighters? I've been on podcasts and spoken to people that are part of the business. The strength and conditioning coach of Regis Prograis told me, the fight of the year cannot be Japanese. You have to be American to be the fight of the year.
Yeah.
And he said this with a very like he wasn't joking. He literally believes that, like, I think what it is oh, the big leagues are here. Like they think like it's like you think NFL USA, NBA USA, MLB USA, right? But no, like that's not like boxing is a worldwide sport. Okay, the USA is closer now to MLS than NBA when it comes to boxing. That's where we're at, right? That's the reality. That's going on. The American market is dropping dramatically. Popularity in the sport is dropping dramatically, which means less kids are going to take up boxing. We're going to get less talent coming in. So there's going to be some struggling days coming unless something changes, all right? Yet the world is doing wonders right now in terms of producing talent in Eastern Europe and Asia, even places like Australia, and the U.S. is dropping, other countries are rising, and we're at a point, Calix, where the mecca of boxing, I believe, and I'm going to predict it right now, it's going to be Japan in just a couple of years. That's going to be the place to go. That's going to be where the money's going to be. And people could say, well, what do you mean? I'm telling you, especially any weight class below 147 pounds, it's going to be Japan. And shit, even Gennady Golovkin went to Japan to fight one of their stars over there. And that was a couple of years ago. That's going to be the place to go. And why is that? One, it's the third strongest economy in the world right now, and the sport is gaining popularity over there. That's why. You got Inoue doing $20 million gates over there. And if boxing keeps dropping in popularity in the United States, and if, like I'm just saying, I'm just putting it out there that, Japan is a stronger economy than the UK, bro.
Mm-hmm.
Like people need to understand this. Like point blank period. But those are my thoughts on that.
Yeah, so to piggyback off of that, it depends on where you're at in weight, but it's going to get to a point, it's already there, right? But even more so, like 122 down is the Japanese market now. They own that. 122 down. And then middleweight classes is still America because pretty much all of our titles are consolidated in those middleweight classes, 130 to about 154, right? And then 160 up, it's once again, it's a universal area. 160 up to heavyweight, there's not much American influence there, right? So you got Canelo at 168. Everything orbits around him still there. And he's Mexican, lives in San Diego, and fights mostly in Vegas. So it's still considered like an American market. But other than that, it's foreign influence. And we're losing our grip. We're losing our hold on that. And people need to wake up to the fact that only 30% of the top 10 pound for pound are American. And then on top of that, I would argue the pound for pound king, that argument, supremacy, as Bud fights a little less often, and as Usyk fights for the undisputed heavyweight championship of the world, our rematch against Fury for 3 belts and lineal, the debate for pound is Inoue and Usyk, and that's Japan and that's the Ukraine. So we need to wake up. We need to get things going. One thing I would argue is even as the numbers diminish as far as fans and influence in boxing in America, we're still producing talent, but there's something broke in the amateur system on up to when we get these fighters. You still see these guys. Top Rank has a lot of them. They come into the professional ranks and they're talented, but there's something broken from prospect to contender to champion. And I would argue it's these fighters simply aren't fighting enough. They're not sharpening their sword. And you're seeing a lot of stuff that I want to talk about in this podcast. I talked about last week in my podcast. A lot of these fights are being marinated that they're historically fights you just do to make these fights better and to make both fighters grow. Not only as fighters, but even in a loss, you can grow your market as a fighter, as a brand in a loss. Like Boots versus Norman Jr. is not historically a fight that you marinate. You just do it. And you see where it goes. And you look at lightweight, and you look at welterweight, and you look at middleweight, historically great divisions who historically have been American divisions are just trash, dumpster fires. Even if they have talent in these divisions, the fights are not being fought, and these fighters are not building their brand. But as far as Bruce's question earlier, why do they knock Inoue for not moving up in weight? It's simple. I think it's very simple. I think it's going to be disguised as different things. A lot of times in boxing, we kind of
want him to lose.
Yeah, they want him to lose. And people need to get out of this thinking, this mind frame that, look, Pacquiao did it organically, and it was great what he was doing. But fighters have sort of taken advantage of this, and they do the weight
jump. He was also younger.
Yes.
By the way.
And Glen Jennings talked about this as sort of an elevator, right? And I would argue that they do this to become chameleons. It's part of the Tank Davis theorem. It's when it's convenient for him to be at 140, he'll be at 140. When it's convenient for him to be at 135, he'll be at 135. Even Ryan Garcia was playing this game to where he was fighting 135 pounders at 140 and fighting him at catch weights. And he doesn't have to campaign in either weight class. And the same thing with Tank. He doesn't have to campaign in either weight class. And he kind of backs his way up to the champion at 135 as fighters move up and beat each other. And I would argue that the weight jumping that's disguised as daring to be great is just, it's either a cash out game. You saw Mel do it. You see Bud trying to do it with Canelo because Bud's just not going to beat Canelo if he moves up. And also it's a lot of times it's to move out of a stronger division that you're in and evade tough fights in that division and pick off a title at a weight class north against a champion that's lesser value or an easier fight than the guy within your weight class and it's disguised as now I'm a multi-weight champion, right? So I would argue that in a way, the best move for him is to stay at 122 because they want you to move up and lose. But on top of that, I would argue just mow down 122 and wait for those super fights to come up because the super fights are actually beneath him. It's Junto. It's Bam. I mean, Bam's great enough to me to move up to 122 in the next 2 years and try to challenge Inoue. Those are where the super fights are, especially when you look at the talent at 118, 115 in Japan. Great Japanese fighters there that you can do in the Japanese market that's growing, and you can put those fights in the Tokyo Dome. I think he needs to stay at 122. And to answer Bruce's question, they're doing it because of what you said. They want to see him lose. They want to see him lose. They do this thing, D-style, where, again, they did it. What if he fights Tank? What if he fights Tank at 130? It's like, why doesn't Tank fight somebody in his own weight class? And why aren't you asking Tank to fight somebody at 154 then?
Yeah,
I mean,
but a lot of that is what's troubling about a lot of that, right? Because I see people do this a lot, but it's astonishing to me how many like real like, and I'm saying these are boxing fans, Alex. This is not some casual dude like that guy. I forget his name from the NBA that was saying he wants to see Lomachenko versus Canelo, but he meant
Jackson.
it like.
Steven Jackson.
Was it him? Yeah, and it's like I don't know about that one, brother. But like this is like actual boxing fans. Some of them have boxing channels.
Yeah.
They have boxing in their name on YouTube. Like they cover boxing. Like they proudly say, I'm a big boxing fan. But they also say things which is within their right. Okay, I'm not one of those that gets all butthurt about it, but I don't watch anything below 126.
Yeah.
126, but I don't watch. Okay, that's fine. I'm not saying you have to. However, it doesn't excuse like your ignorance of any weight class below 126 or below 130. Your ignorance is not a good excuse to justify your ignorance. Okay. Mm-hmm. And what I mean by that is, who is Inoue beat? I don't know any of the guys he's beat. Well, you don't follow anything below 126. You said it yourself. Like, what do you mean? I don't watch anything. They call it the booger weights. They call it the midget weights. They call it the little kid weights.
The noodle weights.
Yeah, like I don't watch any of those fights. I ain't gonna get up in the morning to watch no fights in Japan on a Tuesday. Like,
and that's a good point. These style, and it's another answer to Bruce's question. It's they simply don't know the names, so to them it's not impressive. It's not impressive. Like Stephen Fulton Jr. is the only one they knew, and they were so confident. The American market was so confident that Stephen Fulton Jr. was going to go out there,
exposed,
and he was going to teach Inoue. He was going to teach that little Japanese guy a lesson. He was going to teach them. And he gets destroyed. And
they were talking like he's going to get exposed. That you guys been hyping this dude up, and now Fulton's going to make short work of him, right? And then when I pointed that out after the fact, because like I picked Inoue to win, all right? And when I pointed that out after the fact, they try to dox me, like, oh.
Yeah,
but 5 years ago, you weren't that impressed with Inoue. Yeah, 5 years ago. And I already openly said that I changed my mind. And by the way, I always knew he was a good fighter. I never said he was a bad fighter. I just didn't think he was like amongst the top 3 best in the sport. But obviously, Inoue beat enough asses that changed my mind. Right?
Hey, TJ did better than Fulton. He did. And so did Neri.
A lot of guys did better than Fulton, but they don't know who they are. Remember fucking Devin Haney was on Ariel Helwani's show, and he's sitting there, and Ariel was like, well, what about Inoue? You don't think he's number one? Well, who's he fought? No, nobody knows he's fought. Nobody knows any of his the guys he's fought. Like, there's no world champion at the time anyway, right? Well, I guess he's undefeated still. I don't know if you're aware of this, Carlos, okay? Okay. Just because you don't know who they are, Haney, And then he literally said, a lot of them literally said, yeah, I mean, he's beating Fulton, but that's one guy. And they keep saying this, Kellex.
Yeah.
Yeah, he beat Fulton, but it's just one guy that is beat. Well, Crawford's beating a lot of guys. Canelo's beating a lot of guys, which all that's true. But like anyone who says, oh, yeah, he's beating Fulton, like that's it. Everyone else is a bunch of guys that nobody knows. Like, first of all, whether you know somebody or not has nothing to do with whether they can fight or not. I don't know if you know this, guys. Okay, knowing somebody, okay, if you knowing who they are says nothing. It says nothing about their fighting ability, right? Nothing. So obviously, a lot of these guys that have given him much better fights, I guess, are better than Fulton. All right. Fulton is just a guy that we knew in America, right? Mm-hmm. That's it. You knew more about him, but you saw how easily Inoue destroyed him. So that what that means is that your preconceived notions that, like, they really believe that we all got together, right? All boxing scribes, some content creators, some boxing fans that actually, by the way, all the ones that actually watch the divisions below 126, right? They literally believe, well, did we all get together and we had like a big like conference? You know what I mean? And we all agree, like, hey, we don't want to give any American fighters credit, so we're gonna hype this Japanese dude up. Okay, so we're gonna talk about him being the best in the world, and we're totally gonna hype the shit out of him. We're gonna pretend like he's great, all right? Even though it's gonna backfire, because one day he's gonna move and fight Fulton, and Fulton's gonna just give him a boxing lesson and make all of us look stupid, all right? But hey, let's just stay on code. Let's all together unanimously agree that Inoue is a great fighter, and say the top. Let's put our like boxing, reputation on the line, and say this dude is amazing, right? And say he's top 3 pound for pound, just because we want to hate on American fighter.
Yeah.
Like, do they really think that's happening?
I think so. By the way, shout out Mr. Boxing Rule. Go get those shirts that he's selling over on X.
Yeah, where's the Texas boxing caps at? Where's that at? You know what I mean? Selling all these caps. There's no Texas boxing, no nothing. Like, you know what I mean? It's just like, it is what it is. No Tex-Mex shit.
I think he'll get those out eventually. I think he'll get them out eventually. But
and not for nothing, but if you want to do a Mount Rushmore of Mexican boxing, yes, it has Chavez, right? And yes, it has Salvador Sanchez, but he should have you could take Barrera or Morales, that's fine, but then you have to have Ruben Olivares. I'm just putting that out there, or just saying.
That's 5. You just gave 5. You just gave 5. You can't.
When I said pick Morales or Barrera, and then, but I would actually remove one of those, by the way, and put Marquez. In fairness, I would put Marquez and I'll put Olivares. Marquez, Olivares, Chavez, and Salvador Sanchez. That's right now, but Canelo's like right there. Canelo already surpassed Barrera and Morales, by the way, in my opinion.
So you'd have Canelo 5, right?
I think he's 5 right now. Yeah.
Mount Rushmore, honorable mention. Interesting.
But that's a boxing fan of me just finding a reason to argue about shit, about rankings and who's on a t-shirt.
You hate the shirt. You just said it. You hate
no. I'm not saying
you hate the shirt.
I'm just a boxing fan.
That's what it sounded like to me. You hate the shirt. You hate the shirt. That's what it sounded like to me.
You see, he's a good marketer. It's like, oh no, Ruben is his own shirt. That's what it is. Like, okay, gotcha. How do you even argue with that, right?
Canelo needs his own shirt, right?
Right. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, Marquez needs his own shirt. I'm just saying. No Marquez, no Apocalyptos.
Oh, come on.
He's saying that he's too dark. That wasn't me saying it. No, that's not me saying it. I don't know.
No. Marquez definitely belongs there.
So to answer that, it really highlights this whole situation, how they don't know the names. And it's one of the reasons they throw Tank in there, right? And it highlights that their expectations of Tank are so low. God, man, good Lord. Can these dudes raise their expectations of Tank, please? If you really think he's that great, this dude's got to beat this dude, and this guy, I got to beat this guy, and then he can just fight Ryo, and then one day, maybe in 2026, Tank will fight one of these guys who beat each other in this bracket, this 7-year bracket that these dudes are fighting to get at Tank, and Tank automatically just gets a bye to the championship level for 7 years, D-style, and then he'll fight one of these guys that beats the hell out of all these guys and then is getting beat up in the process, and then he'll finally be able to have the privilege to fight Tank, who is the most privileged fighter in the sport. Good Lord, can you dudes please raise your standards?
I mean, this is crazy. And you know what? I trolled off a little bit because I went on a tangent about the some of the people that think there's a conspiracy to just leave off American fighters, because I mean the American fighters like Tank are doing so much that we're just eager to take away their credit and give it all to Inoue, who's doing nothing, right? But the point about them not following anything below 126 and just the way they talk about the lower weight classes, the way they analyze the lower weight classes or lack thereof, right?
Those midgets, right?
And not only that, the way they talk about moving up like it's no big deal. It's only 14 pounds if I Tank. I mean, well, it's 14 pounds. It just shows you how ignorant they are about the sport, about
those were saying
how weight classes matter.
Yeah, well, Inoue weighed 136 on fight night. It's like, oh, okay, he only weighed 130. He weighed 136.
Well, okay. If he did or not, I have no idea, right? Do we know that?
That's what they said. I don't know. That's what these dudes are saying.
But I guess my point is, you know, it shows you that they don't have an understanding, because they'll say something crazy like, it's only 14 pounds. I mean, look at Usyk. He beat a good dude that outweighed him by like 60 pounds. And it's like, whoa. We cannot, like, there is a clear misunderstanding or lack of or a clear ignorance, I should say.
Yeah.
When it comes to understanding how a pound matters so much more in the lower weight classes than it does in the higher weight classes.
It's percentages,
right?
Duh.
Because of the percentage of the body mass. And there's a clear and maybe, I don't know, that the sport of boxing and people that cover it over the years, like the legacy media, like that they fail to educate the public about that. Is there like a failure in that? Have we kind of failed a little bit in not explaining that properly? I don't know. But that is definitely, and this is coming from diehard fans that watch the sport that don't have a good understanding about that, right? Because moving up 13 pounds when you're at 122 is a bigger deal than if you move up 13 pounds, you're at 160. Yeah. Right. That's why the weight classes are separated by more pounds in the higher weight classes. So it is what it is, but that's a fundamental misunderstanding people have. And I think a lot of that also is a reason they don't give credit to a lot of these guys. They'll say things like, yeah, he's got a lot of, titles, but they're only separated by 3 pounds, 4 pounds. That's nothing. I go to the restroom and take a shit, and that's more than like, well, I don't know what the fuck y'all eating. like that's number one, bro. If you're shedding 5 pounds of shit, holy crap, bro. How many quarter pounders are you eating?
Yeah.
God damn, bro. But that's a side note.
But look at Fulton Jr. like that. Just do that exercise, right? It's, man, he's going to show Inoue like this is the best fighter in the lower weight classes. Remember, Stephen Fulton Jr. was popping up on pound for pound lists. He was right outside the pound for pound list or somewhere between 6 and 10. And he's really going to show Inoue. And Inoue can't do the same thing at 122 that he did at 118. And what happens? He absolutely destroys him. And he makes easier work of Stephen Fulton Jr. than any fighter he's fought in recent history. Look at Donaire. Look at what Inoue went through to beat Donaire. 2 fights, broken face, all kind of stuff, right? That he goes through to beat Donaire. And then he makes easy work of it. He wins every second of every round in the fight. He was never in trouble. He was toying with Stephen Fulton Jr. And you watch that, and the dudes go straight from that the next second they start to mention Tank, and it's because they know no other names down there. They know no other names. And Fulton Jr. was the face of the lower weight classes
They
to
skipped
dudes
two
who
whole
don't
divisions,
follow.
Kelly.
He was the face of the lower weight classes to dudes who don't follow the lower weight classes. He's up there in Minnesota and he's styling on dudes, right? In Minnesota where Glenn won't go. Glenn's like, don't bring Minnesota to me. We're not going to Minnesota. The hell with Minnesota.
He said it's cold. It's too cold.
It's too cold. We're not fighting up there. And they're going to cop the place anyway. They're bragging about how great this place is for boxing, and they're giving everything away for free. A dude did a $51,000 live gate D-style, Stephen Fulton Jr. in Minnesota, and they're bragging about it. But this is the face of lower weight class boxing to dudes in America who don't follow the lower weight classes. They become strictly middle weight class followers is what they become. They don't know the names 175 and up.
I need to emphasize this, Alex. That's okay, but then don't start getting in these conversations and demanding that these little dudes move up.
Leave us alone.
And say well, I don't know who's he fought. I don't know who he is. Well, yeah, of course you don't know who he is because you don't watch it. All right, what do you mean? It's just crazy, bro. But why Fulton? Fulton is American, and he happened to be in 122. So because there's an American in 122, all of a sudden, like he's a legit fighter.
Mm-hmm.
Let me tell you something, bro. If Fulton was a dude from Mexico and his name was Alejandro De La Torre, and he had the same style or whatever, and he was winning the same way, like they wouldn't give a fuck about the dude, bro.
Yes.
Right? It's the way it is.
It is the way it is. And now we're looking at only 3 American fighters on the pound for pound list. Only 3. Like my top 8 would be, it's hard for me to make a top 10, but my top 8 in this order would be Inoue, Usyk, Bud, Bam, Junto. So in the top 5, I got 2 Americans, and then it goes to Bivol, Canelo, Beterbiev. So I got 2 in my top 8. 2. And then once you get to 9 and 10, it's really a struggle because nobody's separating themselves from like 9 to 20. There's like a 9 to 20.
Because what's going on, Calix? Okay, I heard through the grapevine, not really the grapevines out in the open, but there's boxing channels out here, and there's boxing content creators of whatever sort saying things like, like all these, like they hate their own American fighters. That's what it is, and they have a bias and a love for the Japanese fighters, and it's like, why? Yeah, because this country has a history of just loving Japanese people, right? Now, we dropped the most devastating bomb in the history of the world, right? In World War II on Japan, bro. 2 of them. Right? We removed Japanese people from their businesses and stripped them of all their rights, even though they were American citizens, and put them in camps. Right? I mean, and when I say we, I mean the United States government. I don't mean me or Calix, but you know what I mean. You know what I mean? I just don't understand. Where did this whole thing, we showed up to the country and forced them to trade with us when they wanted to be sovereign. They didn't want nothing. We forced them to do it, or we would invade their country. Yeah, America we just love. We have a history of just loving the shit out of Japan. We can't get enough of
in the Eastern Bloc too, D-style, right? The Eastern Bloc.
Boy,
do we go out of our way to love the Eastern Bloc. The Eastern Bloc people, boy, do we go out?
I mean, we just have this we can't help it. You know what I mean? We just have a history of it. Give me a fucking break. Maybe a lot of us are just boxing fans, and we acknowledge talent when we see it, right? And we give credit where credit is due. I'm not gonna be a hater on a Japanese fighter if he's doing his thing and he's kicking ass, bro. It's as simple as that. I don't have a stake in the race when it comes to Japan. I don't have stocks in Japan. I don't have property in Japan. I don't know people in Japan. I don't even have a Japanese friend. I'm just saying.
That's racist. The racist.
I just don't live around Japanese people. Like I'm sure they're beautiful people. Like it is.
They're
what
not in
I'm
El
sure
Paso. They don't have Japanese people in El Paso.
Not that I know of. You know what I mean? But what I'm saying, people are gonna clip that and be like, "Oh, this doesn't like Japanese people." you don't like Japanese. I'm just saying. I don't have like some like. What's my goal? Like, what's the move here? Well, why would I be involved in a conspiracy to hype up Inoue? Like, plus,
let's just call it what it is. And these dudes, we can be open about it because they've said it about us, right? They think we're racist against Black American fighters, and we're willing to outsource or import non-Black fighters into our favorite fighter, our favorite
for a
fighter
fictional
list.
pound for pound list, right?
Yeah, to lower and lesser Black American fighters. They've accused people of the same thing in the NBA, and I gotta be honest, man. Like y'all need to wake up because we like the NBA way better when it was dominated by American players. I'm just telling you. I don't like the European influence in basketball, but they accuse you of that. But really, it's very simple.
That sounds kind of xenophobic. What do you mean you don't like the European?
I don't like the European influence of basketball. I'm around it all the time. Can somebody hit somebody? Like this is too soft. Can y'all?
So soft. Oh, that okay. All right.
It's too soft. These dudes need to post somebody up. Good Lord.
People are going to come at you at every angle, because they're going to come at you. He says something Black people. He said something about and he's being xenophobic against Europeans. You know what I mean?
Black and Japanese. We're hating on everybody.
These now talked about dropping bombs at Japan. And let's cancel the show. They're going after everybody.
We need to be canceled. Look, they're going to come after us. We need to be canceled. But look, I say this to make a point. It's no deeper than, it's no more complex. It's actually very simple. I've heard Ring IQ make this point a million times. He even went on your channel a year or two ago to make this point. It resembles more of a sport elsewhere. When we tune into No Limit Boxing in Australia, it resembles a sport. It's the top domestic fighters fighting each other. It's entertaining. And then you're going to see these dudes again 3-4 months later. It's like, okay, I can follow this guy. I could get invested in him. When we follow Japanese boxing, Eastern Bloc fighters, UK boxing, the atmosphere comes through the TV and you get to know these fighters. You get to know the people putting on the events because they are openly out there doing interviews, the promoters, the managers. And then the Japanese market in particular right now, it's the closest semblance to a sport that we have right now. It's the closest semblance to what we had 15, 20, 30 years ago. It reminds us of what we came up with in boxing. It's champions fighting top contenders. It's look at Inoue and Junto right now, D-Style. Right now, look at the American market as an example. Just look at this dichotomy. These dudes are trying to marinate Boots versus Norman Jr. And the dude is out there saying, I can't take a $1.7 million deal because after my overhead, I only get $810 and then I got to pay taxes. You're like, all right, so do you want a $5 million deal to cover your overhead and taxes? Are you the only fighter in the world?
I want you guys.
Are you the only fighter in the world that pays overhead and taxes? Are you the only business person in the whole world that has to pay overhead and taxes?
I want to make sure, though. I want to make sure people understand. Next time you guys, like, you see a job you like, you're going to switch jobs or whatever, right? You apply for a job, or when you go for your raise, I want you to try that. I want you to tell the person that's interviewing you, right? Or tell your boss, whatever. If you're trying to get a raise, you tell them, "Hey, man, I appreciate the $35 an hour, but at the end of the day, I mean, after taxes and after the deductions, I could put money into my 401k. I put money in this, I put money in that, and then you know what I mean. There's health insurance. I want to raise, like I want to make 37 an hour now, but after everything's removed, you know what I mean." Like so that's going to be, I don't know, like what, 42, 40, like something like that. So I can make 37 after everything. Like, they're going to look at you like you're stupid, bro.
And now this dude's going to fight some dude named Cuevas or whatever, however you pronounce it, on Keyshawn Davis's undercard. And I guess he doesn't have overhead and taxes for this one. I guess not, right? We only hear about the obstacles when it's a fight the fighter doesn't want. This is simple. Why are people making this more complex than it needs to be? He doesn't want to fight Boots. He doesn't want to fight him. We got to deal. And this is what we deal with in the American weight classes. So more of us are saying, why the hell do I want to watch Norman Jr. fight Cuevas on Keyshawn? You dudes are going to, if we do get this fight, well, we're not going to get this fight because Boots is going to move up. We're going to get this fight 7 years from now, and they can't properly build fights. As a contrast, look at what's going on in Japan. They're going to fight meaningful fights in their weight classes. They're separated by one weight class. They can build it. Nothing's stopping Inoue at 122. Nothing's stopping Junto at 118. So what's going to happen is these fighters are going to build the next 2 or 3 fights, and then they're going to strike while the iron's hot, and they're going to do Inoue versus Junto, Tokyo Dome. It's going to be bigger than ever. That's what we get. You have serious people who understand business, who are making fights accessible for the
business
fans.
And they're actually making money, by the way. Like they're businessmen that are actually making money.
They're making their fighters accessible. It's a booming market because of this. Because I understand, like, Japan has always had great fighters, but right now something different has happened. I need people to realize that. It's not just that we have more access than ever. Remember when we first started doing this 15 years ago? I remember we're trying to share like links with each other to where we can watch fights in the UK or we can watch Asian fighters. We have more access to them now than ever. But at the same time, they're getting better. And their fans have a certain standard of their fighters that they have to live up to in expectations of those fighters. And at the same time, they have access to these fighters because these fighters are fighting consistently 2, even 3 times per year. They're showing up at the same time, New Year's Eve, December, May. They're showing up at the same time. They're building these cards with Japanese fighters against top contenders. They're doing the right thing, and they're building these rivalries, these natural rivalries. We're doing the opposite. How in the hell are we down to marinating Boots versus Norman Jr., D-Style? How does this happen?
I don't know.
That's not a fight that you marinate. Why are people... why is it so complex? That is not a fight that you marinate. This is Boots against Norman Jr. D-Style, if Boots walks into any mall in America outside of Philadelphia, nobody knows who that guy is. If Norman Jr. walks into the mall in Atlanta, they're going to think he's the 4th string special teams player for the Atlanta Falcons. Nobody's going to know who this guy is. And we're talking about marinating that? Why?
Here's the thing, a couple of things. So I was actually giving Norman Jr. and his team the benefit of the doubt. I even did a video about it a couple of days ago. But then, like, I'm starting to see, like, as more evidence comes out and it's becoming more and more clear. I mean, 1.7 million. Now, never in all my years covering boxing, and I've been here for a while, all right? In all my years reading about boxing, whether it's Ring Magazine in the 90s or the newspapers or whatever, growing up, the websites, maxboxing.com, remember when they were a big thing? In all my years, never, and I mean this, guy, I've never heard a fighter or a team or whatever say, I want X amount after taxes and overhead. I want X amount after all my deductions. I want to make over this amount, X amount, whatever it is. I've never heard that in my life, bro. Mm-hmm. Ever. We're reaching a new, because first of all, think about it. So you want the promoter to be responsible for what you pay in state taxes, federal taxes? What do you want to be responsible? What cut you agreed with Top Rank? What percentage they get out of you want them to pay that too? And then you want them to pay what you pay your trainer and your cut man too, or what? Like, where does it stop? Because everyone is different. Depending on what state you live is different. Depending on what country you're from, is the taxes are different. So all that's gonna vary. But you want Eddie Hearn to do the math? You want him to take out a calculator and be like, okay, well, we're gonna make sure you make over $2 million, right? So we're gonna have to pay you, 2.8 million? Well, like, I don't even know. Like, what? I've never, like, this is crazy, bro. And here's the worst part: I've never in my life. I want everybody to imagine this for a second, right? I want you to imagine this. Imagine laughing at the person that is still going to make way more money than you, right? And that was offering you the most money you've ever made in your life, almost 20 times over. I want you to think about that. Because when Matchroom lost the purse bid for the Karen Boots fight, which is a fight I can't even believe we're talking about, by the way.
I know.
Right? This is crazy. But imagine laughing at Boots and at Matchroom and somehow tying that to, see, they do lowball offers. See? You see? Boots made a mistake going to Matchroom. You see? And I'm just thinking to myself, Boots is still going to make like almost 10 times more than what you're going to make.
Yeah.
Even if he does that fight. He doesn't have to do that fight. He could do another fight. Boots has a lot of options. You've lost the biggest payday of your life. A life-changing payday. And now you're going to make around 100,000, maybe more. But it's not going to be anywhere near what you were offered. And I don't know they know this, Calix. Uncle Sam's still coming for you. Like, Uncle Sam's, they're still going to get their cut. Uncle Sam's not going to go like, oh, you didn't get the deal with Eddie Hearn? Oh, don't worry about it. We're going to give you a tax break. Just go chill. Keep all of it. No, Uncle Sam's going to be like, give me that money right now. Okay, I got these wars and these fucking spending I got to do. You should get over there. Like, you know what I mean? Whatever it is, right?
And you write the overhead off, by the way. I don't know if people who don't do business know that. You write the overhead off. So you're paying the tax on 810. You're not paying the tax on 1.7.
Man, they don't know all that. If they knew all that, they wouldn't be saying the shit they're saying, Calix.
I know. Boots versus Karen, good Lord, man. Like, this is, it just exemplifies where we're at.
Says, pay me my taxes so I don't got to pay tax. Like, who says that, bro? What are we doing? Just ask for more money, bro. I want $2 million in my bank account after everything is like, bro.
If I'm the promoter, I'm listening to this and I'm like, you're already in a certain amount on the fighter. Like, you lose money on a fighter up until a certain point. That's how it works with promoters. This is what, when we talk to power brokers behind the scenes, this is what they tell you. We're in a certain amount before we even get close to seeing anything back. We have to invest into this fighter. Maybe you're 2-3 million into this fighter before you start seeing anything back. So you got a dude who, he should be on his knees, like, thanking the Lord that somebody's willing to give me 1.7 million. And nobody in this country knows who I am. Nobody knows who I am. And he's young.
Yeah,
this is another thing they'll do with these style. They'll say, well, he's young. He's got time. He's 23 years old, and 23 is good enough to be a champion, right? You can be a champion at 23, but you can't unify. That's too young to unify. What do you mean?
But if they would have just said, look, we don't want to do it yet. We just want the belt, or we want to defend it once or twice, and then we'll talk about unification. They would have still got a criticism, right? But the criticism is coming from them feeling entitled to the same amount of money that Boots made, right? Because you got to listen to what they're saying. They're saying things like, well, Boots is bringing anything to the table. All he brings is a belt, just like we do, right? But that's a fundamental misunderstanding of how the business works, right? You don't make more money just because, you both have a belt. So if Boots made whatever he made in his last fight, you're entitled to that same amount too, right? Because they're like, well, he fought Avanesian, he made X amount. How much did he make against Avanesian? Did you know?
One for who? Boots?
Yes.
I don't remember what it was. There's 7 figures. I know that.
All right, if anybody in the chat knows, just put in the chat. But my point is, like, because see, they were pointing that out and being like, well, you made this much against Avanesian, that's Avanesian. So like, we have a belt. So if he's making that much against Avanesian, we should make, more than that against him because we both have belts. And it's like, that's not how it works. Like, what are we doing? At the end of the day, Boots is making 10 times more than you are to start off, right? So like the fact that they're offering you 10 times plus more should be enough, in my opinion. And I don't know if you've seen this, Alex, but now there's this thing that they're vindicated because Matchroom lost the first bit to Karen.
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean that vindicates?
First thing I thought when I saw that is they're not going to fight the fight. They're not going to fight Kara. Why would they fight a rematch?
So when I used to work with my uncle, like he would bid on like construction jobs, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he would bid, well, what like I'll do it for X amount, blah blah blah, and whatever, right? This is essentially like Calix offering me. Imagine like I'm representing my uncle's construction company, and Calix has a project, right? Let's say it's his house. Because Calix, he got tired of building it on his own. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just I don't want to build it with my bare hands anymore. I'm gonna hire somebody to do it, And he gives me like first bids. By the way, he doesn't even want to like put it like he's like, hey, Dista, I'll offer you X amount, and that amount is 10 times more than I've ever made in my life. Right. And I'm like, you're lowballing me, bro. Like, what do you mean? You're gonna lowball me like that? And then he makes me another offer. He's like, okay, all right, fine. I'll pay you this much more. No, you're still lowballing me. What do you mean? I want to make more than that after taxes. And like, I start talking to him about my taxes, and I want him to cover that. I want him to cover my tools. I want him to cover more, and I want to make that amount after all expenses, right? And then he does a third offer. 20 times more than I've ever made, just because he's like, he just wants it done already, right? And I say no, right? So I lose out on a life-changing payday and making 20 times more than I've ever made in my life, right? And then some other thing, right? Calix loses a project to somebody else that outbids him, right? That's completely unrelated to me. It has nothing to do with me. He gets outbid in some other project, and then I start laughing at Calix. See, he lost that project. Look at him. See, I told you he lowballed me. I'm vindicated. No, I'm not. I just missed out. I'm broke. Because that's what I am. I missed out. That's the reality.
Yeah, and this is it goes back to what we were saying earlier. Dudes think that we're just gonna hate on Norman Jr. and Boots for no reason. And this isn't just about Norman Jr. D-Style. Boots has made similar decisions like this in his past. Remember, we talked about the IBF route. We talked about him allowing himself to be an independent contractor to the PBC and stay loyal to Showtime, even though there's nothing in writing saying he needs to stay loyal to Showtime, and put himself in a situation to where, of course, the PBC is not going to be looking out for you. Of course, the PBC isn't gonna serve up their fighters to you, and of course, the sanctioning bodies are going to stay loyal to Al Haymon and the PBC and keep their fighters safe. And you're not petitioning to get these fights. You're not pushing the issue. And you're expecting to, over a span of 3, 4, 5 years, Errol and Bud are finally going to fight each other, and then they're going to move on, and then it's going to become your division, right? And now, what does he have? He has nobody wants to fight him. It's a terrible division now. There's nobody else there that brings value to the table. Virgil has moved on. The everything's at 154. The guys at 140 are not going to move up to fight you. And now look at what you're left with. And this is due to decisions that you made in the past. And now he finally gets a serious person in the room, and Eddie Hearn. And Eddie Hearn's trying to play catch up with him and trying to get him the stardom that's been lacking of him because of these decisions and because of the decision to not fight in Philadelphia for 6 years. This is what happens. And now he's dealing with a guy who is following his blueprint. So can he really be mad about it? He's dealing with a guy who's following his blueprint and turning down good offers to take easier fights and play the long game. That's going to benefit him nothing either. It's not going to benefit Norman Jr. either. D-Style, these guys, they have people in the room with them that are talking them out of possible future superstardom, because you and I are not going to we're not going to be emotionally invested in guys making moves like this. Why would we? We'll go to Japan. We'll follow these dudes in Japan. I'll wake up Tuesday morning and follow. I'll watch on New Year's Eve these guys who are fighting real fights. Why do I need this? Why do I need this here? It's no more complex than that. You guys aren't giving me anything. I'm going to go elsewhere. You're on mute, by the way.
Right. No, I know. But here's my thing. All right. And this is the issue with, and this is, I'm telling you right now, look, boxing has always been a business, and it's always been, it's prize fighting, right? So there's that understanding that guys, fundamentally, that's why they have a team. That's why they have a manager. That's why we just talked to one yesterday. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. That's why there's just, you hire people that are there to negotiate on your behalf and put you in position to, accomplish things in a sport with the idea that you're going to make money, right? That's that. I'm not, naive to that, but in America specifically, there is this get your bag culture, right? Yeah. Which is not a thing in other countries. It's still prize fighting in other countries, right? But in America, we have a get your bag culture that only exists because it's been enabled by people in the boxing business and people that got involved in the boxing business, like Turkey. Okay, I'm not even saying they're bad people for it, but you're enabling this type of behavior. Okay, and you cannot it's hard, Calix, to blame these fighters for this, because it's hard for them to not see how. If that behavior is being rewarded, why wouldn't they follow that trajectory? Why wouldn't they do it? Right? So it's well, I'm going to get my bag. I'm going to hold this belt hostage. Right? It's going to be the Cada plant blueprint. Yeah. Right? I'm going to hold this belt. I'll fight a Subway dude. I'll fight my tocayo with a last name Truax. Okay? I'll do that. I'll just hold on to my belt. And when that big name needs this belt, because he's not in a get your back culture. He's in a doing great things culture, right? So I'm going to hold on to this, and you're going to need it so bad that you're going to give me the fucking money I want. And it's become so brazen now. It's become brazen where they're asking for the promoters to cover the taxes, bro. Okay, they're asking the promoter, like you're going to give me my life-changing payday, right? And even if it doesn't make business sense, even if I don't generate that type of revenue, even if I don't put butts in seats like that, even though I don't bring ratings like that, even though I just whatever it is, you're going to pay me that, right? Get your bag culture is a problem in American boxing, right? And I get it. Oh, well, Floyd got his bag. But people, even Floyd himself, doesn't even give himself enough credit for putting in the work before you started getting the bag, building your legacy before you start getting it. Even Floyd himself gets over that very important aspect of it, right? We have that culture right now. It is what guys are holding off on opportunities because they want to get their bag. And you know what? Once you give a guy their bag, what's the motivation now? What are they? A lot of them are not like Canelo. They're not like Inoue. They're not those guys that, even a Floyd, by the way, that could get tens of millions of dollars and then they still want to continue fighting. Or Manny Pacquiao, right? A lot of these guys are like Jermell Charlo. Jermell got his bag. Mm-hmm. I don't know about you, Kyle. Did you know where Jamal Charles was at?
Don't know.
Right? Jamal was getting bags, maybe not to that degree, but being rewarded with great paydays without having to fight the best. Where's Jamal right now?
Don't know.
Right? Boots was being given a bag by PBC. He was being given X amount of money, fight by fight, and he was content and he was happy with it, right? Because he was getting his bag. You give like we need to create a hierarchy in the sport where you reward the more difficult the fight, right? The bigger the reward, the bigger the prize. That should be how the sport is run, quite frankly. That's the way it is. Ironically, if you build your name and you chase legacy, like getting the bags is just going to become part of it, right? You just get bags if you just chase greatness.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that's not the culture we built in America. We could go all the way. Me and Calix have been talking about this. You could go all the way back to when Andre Berto was getting a cool million to fight in bingo halls and casinos in front of in front of like 5 people. You know what I mean? Like people that are not even there to watch boxing, and people would always say, "What do you care? Why do you care, Calix? Well, why are you trying to stop him from getting his money? Well, why do you guys care about the business like that? Why are you pocket watching it? I'm not pocket watching. I'm watching the budget, and I'm watching you giving all that money to a couple of fighters, and then I'm stuck with very few good fights for the year. Is what I'm watching, right? Like I would rather have a sport that is generating money, generating profit, and is healthy, and more fighters get paid that way. So if you're a pro fighter, if you're about the fighters, you want the sport to be healthy, so more fighters make money, not a couple of them, because they want to get their bag. But yeah, get your bag culture in America is a problem. 100%.
Yeah. And you mentioned something interesting about Floyd a couple minutes ago. Floyd doesn't do a good job of educating the public on the great things he did before he became Money Mayweather, right? And obviously, the older boxing fans aren't getting through to the younger boxing fans who started following it in Floyd's late run, and they just see it as a business and staying safe and keeping their favorite fighter safe, right? That Floyd, look at his 1998 run to where he fought 5 or 6 times. He's 2 years into his career. We're talking about Brian Norman Jr., who's 6 years into his career, being too young to unify, right? Jermaine Taylor wins a middleweight title against Bernard Hopkins 3.5 years into his career. Mayweather becomes Ring Magazine Fighter of the Year, fighting 5 or 6 times. He beats Genaro Hernandez for a title and then defends it less than 2 months later against Angel Manfredi. People don't realize how great those things are, those achievements are, and the fact that those risks right there are the reason that he gets the Oscar De La Hoya fight, because people don't realize that Floyd was fighting Sean Bay Mitchell in a ballroom in like Oregon, wherever it was. I don't even remember where it was. He's fighting him in a ballroom, D-style. Like nobody, I wouldn't say nobody, but he's seen as the pound for pound king, but he doesn't have this audience on his own. Oscar introduced, before that, Arturo Gatti, they start to introduce him to the pay-per-view market, right? But it's Floyd being the pound for pound king that interest Arturo and Oscar to Floyd, because they wanted to win those fights. Those guys want to beat the pound for pound king, right? And Arturo Gatti gets destroyed, but Oscar comes to the table and says, I'm willing to fight this pay-per-view late stage in my career because I want to be the pound for pound king again. And in order to do that, I have to beat the guy. But what brought Floyd value was he was the pound for pound king. He was seen as the guy, and he's seen as the guy because he's taking those risks. And he doesn't have a market outside of that. Oscar introduces him to that market. But what got Floyd that opportunity was the risks that he was taking and fighting those fights that guys like Boots and Norman Jr. are turning down. They're just saying, I don't want this. I don't want that.
They want to get their bag.
The taxes are too high. They just want to get their bag. And Floyd is doing a bad job, or maybe he's doing a good job. Maybe this is what he wants. I don't know, but he's teaching these fighters to scam the market and don't take risks. Do what I did late stage in my career. And what we're trying to educate people on is you can't skip that process. Unless you're a Jake Paul, Ryan Garcia, who became big in the social media space before you even became professional boxers, you're not going to skip that process to stardom. You're not. You're not going to do it. And these fighters don't realize they get 5-7 years down the road and they say, look at Benavidez right now.
There's
saying,
only,
why am I not a star?
Look, there's only one time. The only time Floyd, because I don't think Floyd doesn't really depending on what he's talking about is how he frames things. So if he's talking about the bag and making money, right? He's very dismissive of Top Rank because Top Rank never got him those big paydays. Right. So he feels vindicated that he was worth more, right, than what he was making because look at what I made after I left Top Rank. That's his thinking, right? Yeah. And I could understand why that maybe like that's a logical conclusion he came up with, right? I get it. Like I could see why he thinks that. However, when he wants to hate on younger fighters, like because you know Floyd has a little haterism, you know. When he wants to hate like on a Devin Haney, he wants to hate like on whoever. Like even when he was hating on Tank or Broner's like a good one, right? Yeah, these guys. I mean, yeah, they're the champions, but everyone's a champion now, and you know, I have to fight Gerardo Hernandez, and I have to do this, and look at everything I have to do. Like so you're only gonna get the truth from Floyd when it comes to that important aspect of his career. When he wants to hate on a younger fighter, ironically, that's what it's going to take for him to come out and say those things, right? But like I think he's well aware of that, and I think he should speak about that because it actually makes sense. It tells a story of like, hey, look at the sacrifices I had to make to earn the position I had, right? When these fighters are not going that path at all, right? They're just not. And Calix, I can't help but blame the people rewarding this behavior, right? If Shakur's holding out because $3 million isn't enough, he feels he's worth more. If Turkey is paying him more, then you're rewarding that behavior. That's what you're doing. It just is what it is. That's one of the reasons I just didn't like how Eddie Hearn paid Mikey Garcia $7 million to fight on the zone. I just thought like that's a waste of money. No one's asking for that Vargas fight, and you're going to create some gridlock in the sport because when it's gridlock, then there's stagnation, and that can cause problems with the sport, right? And how do you cause that? Because guys are holding off for money. Are we really, like you said earlier, are we really reaching a point where we're trying to marinate Boots versus Norman Jr.?
Yep.
Are guys really going to hold up on that, right? But look at the alternative. We just had a manager yesterday, Glen Jennings, who has managed the careers of Kasha Tszyu and now the Tszyu brothers, and now he's managing some other fighters, right? And there's one thing I know about Glen Jennings. He gets his fighters paid at all levels, right? But what's his model? We're going to stay active and we're going to fight. That's what we're going to do.
You better
right?
be in the gym.
Because at the end of the day, in most cases, without exceptions, that's going to work. If you're good, you're going to move up the rankings. If you're good, you're going to create a name for yourself. And the reality is he didn't have Tim Tszyu holding off until he gets a big payday. That's not the way they worked. If they would have done that, they would have waited on Zerafa after Zerafa pulled out. I think it was like twice and went to injury. And because that was a big bag over there in Australia. Instead, they moved on, right? And to me, I see this issue a lot with America, and it is what it is. But I want to, speaking of Turkey, and speaking of Glenn, I want to segue to this.
Before you do that, because I wanted to touch on that too.
Yeah, go.
Don't compare Tank and Bud. Don't do it, because one of them obviously was frozen out multiple weight classes, and one of them has access to every fight on the board and refuses to fight the fight. One of the ways you can tell a lot about a fighter is how their peers in and around the weight class react when their name has come up. Everybody in and around 135 wants to fight Tank. None of them fear him. despite the psyop from the media. Nobody fears Tank in the roundaway class, and everybody feared Bud to where he was frozen out. And that's one of the reasons why you get the resumes you get, but you get them for different reasons. And on top of that, one guy has barely fought any title fights. One guy hasn't unified. One guy has won Reggie belts, and the other guy is 18-0 in title fights, something like that. So
Yeah.
Come on.
And another thing, because I just thought about this, and I want to make this point. So when we're criticizing American fighters, and we're criticizing certain content creators on here, and talking about certain narratives, like here's the thing, all right? When just because we're speaking out against like people that are saying, "Oh, Inoue is being hyped up," and you're just putting all these foreign fighters on pound for pound list because you don't want to give credit to the African American fighters, yada yada yada. Just because that's like a thing, and we have every right to point that out, right? It doesn't mean we're like anti-black either, right? It doesn't mean that I'm against African American fighters, and this is a lot of my favorite fighters of all time are African American fighters. My point, and I think I could say this for Calix too, is that we don't give a fuck what color of skin or what nationality the fighter is. That's the point. We don't care if you're from Japan, you're Japanese. We don't care if you're from Mexico and you're Mexican. We don't care if you're African American. If you're a great fighter, you do great things, we're going to give you credit for it, right? That's the point. The point is that it's fighters like Inoue and fighters that even Canelo to a certain degree that they get hated on, right? Specifically because they're not American, and by some content creators because they're not African American, right? That doesn't mean that we're here being anti-African American. I just want to make sure that that's clear, right? And another thing, we got to be like, you guys can do what you want, right? But comparing Bud to Tank, I mean, like, we can't be serious. Like you know what I mean? This is what it is. We can't. Tank hasn't fought a legit top 3 dude in any weight class in his career. Like that just stands as it is. And the guy's almost going to be 30 years old. He's not a spring chicken.
He can be fighting Shakur next. Could be.
Yeah. And we'll see. Like, obviously that could change.
No, I mean, like, right now he could be fighting Shakur.
And we also got to be careful. Like we got to be like, I hate to bring him back because we just talked a lot about it, but like Inoue, like I'm seeing Inoue become collateral damage because some people don't like the way Canelo's been criticized for the Berlanga fight, right? You can't subtract from mothers to add to your fighter, guys. Mm-hmm. You can't. Criticizing other fighters doesn't add to, like, you criticize the Doheny fight a million times. It doesn't make the Berlanga fight any better. Like, and it doesn't take away the fact that we're being charged $89 for the Berlanga fight. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't, like that. I'm just saying. I just saw so many fan bases like join forces to go at Inoue over this tune-up. If we're on, that's what it is. It's a tune-up. Tune-ups are like, I don't know, maybe they're like unicorns now. People aren't used to seeing them now because guys fight once a year now, right? But it's a tune-up. Like, it's a stay busy fight, guys. Is Canelo Berlanga a stay busy fight? Or is it on pay-per-view in September?
It's not being promoted as a tune-up fight, and that's my problem with it.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like I just... and I'm just seeing this like, well, what about him? Oh, you're not seeing this about him. You're not seeing that about them. And nobody's saying we can't point out double standards, but my God, a lot of you are like Mr. Fantastic and you're reaching. Like it's crazy, right? Calix, what did you make? And I know we were kind of interviewing him and you even asked him a follow-up, but taking time to reflect, right? Because even on the roundtable last week, we even talked about this. And we all like suspected, like, it seems like Turkey just wanted everybody to stay still, kind of use them as pawns to set up this like rope path for Crawford to become undisputed. You know what I mean? Like, hey, you stay right there. We're gonna have you fight this guy, and then he's gonna fight you, and then we're gonna get all this done, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, like it I could see why. Like, why would Tim Tszyu wait till February for a maybe? Now, Glenn didn't say but he said I'll fight. But who is he supposed to wait other than Bud? Like what? Wait all the way till February, bro?
For maybe a guy that is Canelo or bust. I don't believe that Bud's wants this undisputed run at 154. I do think he's in the same space right now as Canelo. I think he views himself as a guy, and I think rightfully so, as I've done the hard work. I've fought a lot of title fights. I've put in my work. I'm older now, and I want my cash out fight. Canelo views himself the same way, right? He's pivoted. He's clearly pivoted. He said, he's saying, I'm the one who's made concessions. I put in all this work, 25 title fights, whatever is at this point, 70 fights, and now I want my cash out fights. And that's where they're at. So I think if you're a Tim Tszyu and you're in his space, you don't wait around for possibly a Canelo, a Crawford for February. How do you trust that fight's going to be there, right? Even for Virgil. And they view themselves as, you hear Glenn talk about it, we believe we're going to beat Murtazeliev in October. There's no reason for us to wait around till February to fight a fight. We can bounce back in February and fight a fight if you give us something of value. And they're talking about bouncing back in December against possibly, who knows, Erickson Lubin in Australia, something like that. So these fights are there for him. Keep going. My issue with, I don't know if you saw this. I put out a tweet. This card in November, it's called Mexican something. I don't know what it's called, right? It's Riyadh season card. And Turki Al-Sheikh puts out a tweet saying, I talked to Oscar De La Hoya and we're going to get back to the fans and do this card for free. Well, the card that's being floated out there is Zurdo versus Billiam Smith, Jose Ramirez versus Barboza Jr., William Zepeda versus possibly Kambosos, although there's talk of him possibly fighting, I forgot the dude's name, with the cross-eyed dude. But then Duarte versus Kenneth Sims Jr.
Robert Easter?
No, God, I forget his name.
That's the only dude, you said cross-eyed, but I'm like, it's not that enough, but okay.
Somebody in the chat will get it. It's a rumor out there. The dude, he just fought last month, cross-eyed. God, I forget his name. But anyway, that's the card that's being pitched. Let's assume it's Kambosos, right? That's a good card. It's a good card.
Oh,
right?
Farmer. I don't know why.
Tevin Farmer. That dude's really cross-eyed. But that's a good card. It is, man. It's a good card. Zurdo versus Billiam Smith. That's a good. Ramirez versus Barboza Jr., both guys, going down in trajectory, but it's a good fight. It's a good fight. Zepeda, Kambosos, Duarte versus Sims Jr. These are good fights. It's a good card. But the fact that this was even being talked about as a pay-per-view just shows how far we've gone. And the fact that they're putting this out there and saying, we're going to do this for the fans and do something that you should be doing anyway. This should be done anyway. This is not a pay-per-view value card. How far have we slipped off of that slippery slope to where we're applauding a dude coming out and saying, we're going to give you Zurdo versus Billiam Smith and then Zepeda versus Kambosos or Tevin Farmer for free with your subscription. It's like, dude, the subscription already went up anyway. It's up. No matter where you put it, the subscription is up already. And that should be priced into that. But now you're talking about possibly $15 and $20 pay-per-views. That's fine. I'm good with the pay-per-view being lowered, but my problem is what you're pushing off as pay-per-view value is it's not pay-per-view value. These aren't pay-per-view value cards. So the fact that you're discounting them to $20, it doesn't do much for me unless it's a pay-per-view value card that you're lowering.
The reason they have to put, the reason they got to put this stuff on pay-per-view, in this case, because Shakur right, who's fighting a dude coming off a law. They're putting it on pay-per-view because of get your back culture. But since they're rewarding these fighters and paying them money they don't generate, right? We as a consumer need to subsidize it because they have to put it on pay-per-view. So they get to price gouge the few that do buy it, right? To try to subsidize the money that they're trying to justify to pay these fighters, right? That's just the truth, bro. That's what's going on.
Yeah, I'm fine with 20. That's great. As long as you're giving me pay-per-view value. I'm fine. $20. But $20 for Shakur versus Joe Cordina. And I don't know, like, has this been officially announced? Because I'm hearing different things. I'm hearing Bivol versus Better Biev is free on ESPN Plus. Now I'm hearing maybe it's lumped into this pay-per-view. I just, even if you give me Bivol versus Better Biev, then it becomes pay-per-view value, okay? But you need to price it correctly to get buys in America because, man, it's going to be hard. As great as that fight is, we got to be realistic about this. Pay-per-view isn't just putting on a great fight. Pay-per-view is also branding of certain fighters and certain fighters being branded as pay-per-view level fighters. And Bivol and Better Biev are not that in America. You're trying to sell 2 Russian fighters in the middle of the day and Saturday in the fall with a loaded college football schedule. And you better price that correctly if that's what you're doing. I don't know, but pay-per-view value is a real thing, right? Like, it's a real thing. Yeah. So you better give us pay-per-view value if you're going to upcharge us. If not, it's going to be Fire Stick Boys outside. Fire Stick Boys outside. Fire Stick Boys outside.
Right? I mean,
it's going to be Fire Stick Boys outside.
Obviously, pirating is an issue industry-wide in all forms of entertainment, with all apps, with everything, right? The reason I don't like bringing up piracy that much and the Fire Sticks, here's the reason I don't like bringing it up. Because the power brokers and people in the business, they use it as a crutch.
Yeah.
They use it as a crutch to explain away, like, oh, no, these are all pay-per-view worthy. It's that everybody's stealing it. Oh, no. We are giving you a good product, but unfortunately, all the hardcore boxing fans, they steal everything, and that's why we're suffering, because they don't support it the way they're supposed to support it. It is a good product. What we are giving you is good, right? It's just a thing that I'm just tired of hearing. It's a crutch, bro. Because if that was true, it would be true all the time. Why do some pay-per-views do well, but others don't? Why is UFC doing okay with pay-per-view, right? Well, why, I never see UFC do less than 100,000 per pay-per-view, and they have a problem with pirating. Believe me, I know. Like, they get pirated a lot. Dana's aware of this. He hates it, right? They get pirated. The NFL gets pirated like a motherfucker. Nobody pirates the NFL more than, gets pirated more than the NFL in the United States. Nobody gets pirated more than soccer. Yet all these industries are all successful. They have successful business models. They make money. I mean, they print money. Okay, the amount of money that they're making is crazy. But in the boxing world, everything's explained away with, no, everything's good. It's just that you guys are stealing everything. That is the go-to excuse, because I guarantee you the person that pirates boxing, they're probably pirating NFL football too. Yeah. Right? They're probably pirating the NBA as well. Okay, they're probably pirating, okay, the Disney Channel for their kids, bro. Right? And they're pirating. So it just is what it is. It's that does not explain why boxing in the United States has fallen in popularity. It doesn't explain why it's doing horribly business-wise in the United States. And you tell me, Calix, what the fuck does pirating have to do with Carson, California having only 1/4 of the arena full?
Yeah.
Obviously there's a problem, right?
Their solution to pirating has been watering down the product and charging more. UFC's solution to pirating has been
because they're trying to price gouge the ones that do pay. Exactly. That's what it is.
And the UFC has gone a different way. They've loaded cards. They've gone after piracy, but they're not going to get a hold of that. To be honest, jailing people is not. You can't scale that. But they've stepped up the product. Boxing has in turn watered down the product and charged more. It's our own version of inflation.
Boxing is like Sears, bro. It's Sears.
Yeah, it's an old model,
right? And I'm saying Sears because Sears Sears and boxing is like almost identical, bro. Like, how do people talk about Sears like back in the day? Oh man, Sears used to be the biggest department store in the world. It used to be packed. Like you see old photos of Sears and it's just packed with people, right? The same with boxing. You see old photos, right? Black and white photos. You see a sea of people to watch Jack Dempsey or Jack Johnson. Like, you know what I mean? It's just a sea of people, all these people, right? Look at Times Square, all listening to the radio to listen to a Joe Louis fight, all packed. You know what I mean? The same with Sears, right? I don't know if you have a Sears over there in Louisiana, but we still have one here in El Paso. You walk in, it's just sad. And it's like Sears doesn't even realize it's like they're not irrelevant anymore, right? But they still want to charge you like full sticker price, and they want to charge you more than everybody.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean? And then they have like I'm not saying that like they have those metal detectors in the front and and they have the products attached to like one of those metal, those old school things they used to put stuff on, right? Because they really don't want people to steal. You know what I mean? Like, we're gonna make sure nobody steals from our Sears, bro. Ain't nobody even going into your Sears, bro.
You don't have the Sears card still?
Yeah, in boxing, that everyone keeps coming up with these solutions. That, oh yeah, let's stop the pirating. Let's put the little gadgets where it'll go, and they'll try to walk out with it. You know what I mean? Yet it happens everywhere.
Yeah.
Right? At Walmart, I know this for a fact, bro. And I'm not telling anybody to try this, but if they steal, you steal like a little item. In a lot of cases, they'll just let you go. Right? They don't even deal with it.
I already know how you said
no, I haven't done it. I haven't done it. But what I'm saying, like they'll keep track of you, like they'll keep track of you, but in their idea, it's like let him steal that one little yogurt because he bought like a bunch of shit, and if he keeps coming, we'll take that little loss, to get, because we're still making profit out of that person, right?
Right.
Sears, like man, a little Jolly Rancher, they'll put like a freaking one of those gadgets on it. You walk out with that, they got the security on it and everything, but we could put little gadgets, the little whatever you call them, for the metal detector on every pay-per-view to make sure nobody steals it. These pay-per-views are still going to do trash numbers, right? People, they're just going to wait till the fight's on YouTube. Even if you found a way to stop the pirating altogether, right? And what I could tell you, a lot of these fights, they're not even getting pirated that much. It's kind of sad, bro. I'm just telling you. They're not getting pirated at the degree that people think they are. Like people think, do people honestly sit down, Calix, and say, man, Crawford Madrimov would have easily done like 700,000, but these these pirators, ruined the fight. That's why they only get 100,000 because of them. I'm telling you, that many people did not pirate the fight. I'm just telling you that right now.
The truth of the matter, D-Style, is not only interest, it's pirating takes effort, and it exposes you to viruses. Everybody knows this, right? So you're not going to go out of your way to do that stuff for a fight that's not valuable. You're just not going to do it, but they will for fights that are valuable. And it goes to your point. The fights that are being pirated would be a Canelo versus Munguia, a Canelo versus Golovkin. Those are the fights that are pirated, heavily pirated. And they like to think of it the other way. They like to think of it as the fights that aren't doing many pay-per-view buys. Benavidez versus Bubu Andrade. They're not doing pay-per-view buys because they're pirated. And it goes to your point. I don't even like talking about piracy because it gives these dudes a crutch for putting on crappy content and charging you for it. It's just not going to work. It's not going to work.
But by the way, I love the people in the chat that are really trying to sell us on Berlanga. Like you know what I mean? Like I just don't. I don't. Like, Berlanga's a guy that arguably lost and got like knocked down. I like took a beating against Coseras, a fucking journeyman. But you guys are over here like, oh yeah, he's way better than all the guys that Canelo's been fighting. Like give me a like, or that Inoue's been fighting. You know what Inoue fans aren't doing? They're not going around trying to hype up Doheny.
No.
All right. Like they're not out here like, oh yeah, well, what about this guy? What? Like everyone knows Doheny was a tune-up. Everybody knows this. All right, and you know it's triggering you when you got to create a sock puppet account and give Calix a super chat to talk if D-Style puts on lipstick or not. All right, because your butt hurt. Are you really that hurt?
By the way, trust me, I don't care that much about $2. That could have been $100 super chat. I'm deleting it. I don't care that. I don't care.
Well, what are we doing?
$2 to say it. You don't have to give me $2 to say that. I'm gonna delete it.
Are you that hurt that I said what I said? Like it's like you go to the sock puppet account to do that. Like what are we doing?
And
you know what I mean? And
thinking I care enough about
Berlanga, I got news for you guys. It's debatable who's better, Berlanga or Doheny. It's debatable. No, what do you mean? Berlanga, I'm telling you guys, Berlanga went the distance with a dude that Pacheco knocked out like in the early rounds, bro. He went the distance with a dude that fucking Andra knocked out. Right?
Now that you bring it up though, like I feel disrespected that the dude thought he could slip that through for giving me $2 for sliding me $2. $2, and
I really don't give a shit. Like any dude looking at my lips is a weird dude. Like I don't know what you think you're doing. Like it is it's whatever. Like I'm gonna tune into the show and I'm really gonna dissect the lips of D-Style. No, thank you.
You probably don't care. You probably don't care, but $2,000. Give me, and it's still not gonna get.
No, I'll give him 2,000. Like he'll leave it up for 2,000.
Yeah, 2,000. We'll leave it up.
We'll take
we'll
the
leave
2,
it up. Yeah, we'll take the 2,000. I'll give D-Style 1,000. You know, we'll
there we go. But like either
everybody
way,
has a price, right? We all have a price,
guys. Now, if you ask me, well, who's better? Like, I think Berlanga's better than Doheny. But like, what do we know about Berlanga? Berlanga's never stepped up, bro. I don't think Berlanga beats Pacheco. I don't think like he's like another top 10 dude. The way Doheny is another top 10, top 15 dude. That's what he is.
They're probably ranked around the same.
But I didn't get charged $89.
Yeah, that's
for a Doheny fight, and that's just the truth, right? And the like, I don't know, man. Like I just don't understand this whole like, oh well, like going at Inoue. I just don't get it. You know what I mean?
We have not made friends today.
So to recap, we talked about the bombing of
we talked about Japan. Bombing Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and then
how we hated the Eastern Bloc and
African American fighters and Canelo fans. And good Lord, we have not made friends today.
I'm just saying we're gonna be canceled from every angle, and this show is it's filled. It's Calix is being xenophobic about European, NBA players.
Europeans.
He called them Euros, and then he said they're soft, bro. I mean, Calix is like the dude that calls the basketball players Euro bums, like in the NBA. This show is it's filled. It's absolutely filled with out of context shit that people could pull out. So it just is what it is.
Yeah,
very toxic episode for sure.
Have fun with it. That toxic episode, gentlemen. It was
and speaking of juicy fruit, we had a juicy fruit dude watching the show, looking at my lips. I don't understand why, but it just is what it is.
That's
okay?
very juicy fruit. Don't do that.
With that said, okay, if Inoue's fight was a pack of gum that isn't very good, but it was free, right? I'll take that over the pack of gum that's a little better, but they want to charge me, like $35 for that little pack of gum, right?
Berlanga's like a $35 pack of gum, is what.
It's a $35 pack of juicy fruit.
Yeah, we can't have that. We can't have it.
If
it was $1.99, it's like, all right, I'll chew that gum. That's good. $35.
$35, bro. And then when I complain about it, we have people in the chat saying, well, this gum is better than that other gum, but you're not saying anything about that gum because that gum didn't charge me $35, bro. All right, I'm just saying.
Yeah. All right. I'll give you the final word. Any final thoughts? Oh, the roundtable tonight. Where is that?
That's going to be on Ringside Reporters. So make sure you guys tune in on the roundtable tonight. Should be a good show. And we appreciate all you guys, man. We'll be giving you double shows. And make sure you check out the interview with Glen Jennings.
Yep. And I'll post some content on that on my YouTube channel as well.
Man, that nigga was that Japanese guy was in shape.
You know what, Canelo fans, they're going to get mad. Well, what about Canelo? Canelo's in shape. You never say anything about Canelo being in shape. Well, what about Canelo? What about his six-pack? What about his back muscle? What about him? Like look at that motherfucker. That Mexican is in shape. There you go.
The Mexican's in shape. And that's what they say about you when you go to the gym. That Mexican dude's in shape.
That's right.
Say. And by the way, it looks like he's got lipstick on. Like, what is that?
What the fuck is going on, bro?
On that note, we out of here. See
y'all.
The
ladies don't complain. You know what I mean?
See y'all on the round table later. Peace.
Introducing Naoya, Monster
You've reached the No Fanboy Zone. You've reached the No Fanboy Zone.